Hey everyone. Today's video I'm going to show you how I mix bass in a hard rock or metal setting. So here I have a mix that I recorded this band a couple of years ago, and everything is pretty much mixed. There's still some mixing to do here, but the bass is not mixed at all. So I want to show you how I do this. First, let's start with what tracks we have. So here I have a bass DI, a bass sans amp, and an actual amp. And the bass player used SVT, I think, amp, and he had a distortion pedal in front of it. So this is my distorted tone, and I'll show you what I do with this in a few minutes. Yeah, but first let's listen to each track, and then we'll try to get a nice blend. And I will do this while listening to the drums. So let me go back over here. Let's bring up the drums, and I'm going to do a nice little balance here of all of these. Here we go. Okay, so just for reference, just so you can hear, let's take a listen to just all the three tracks by itself, just to hear what we're working with. So first, the DI. This is how the DI sounds like. Okay, simple DI, nothing special. Normally, what I would do if this is all I have, I would add a sans amp plugin. But since we actually track through a sans amp pedal, I don't need to do that. And let's take a listen to that. All right, so that's basically what I'm going to use. So the bass DI, I'm just going to mute it. I'm not even going to use it. I'm going to use the actual bass sans amp tone as my starting point. Okay, so now that we have that, and I'm going to just bring the drums here, what I do is I split the bass tracks so I can have a low end and then like a high end, so I can control the low end really well. So there won't be any spikes or any peaks or anything like that. It's just very well controlled. All right, so how do I do that? First, what I want to do is I want to limit it. So I'm just going to use a simple limiter, and the one I use is Waves limiter L2, and I'm going to just maybe a couple of dBs. I just want to tame it. So as you can see here, I'm only doing maybe a couple of dBs here. It kind of tells you. See, minus 2.5 was the highest peak. Let me reset that and play it again so you can see the numbers, the dB here, and then you can see the attenuation here as well. Okay, minus 3 there. So I'll just probably bring it up just a hair. There. As long as you don't pass 3, you keep it between, around 2 to 3. That's okay. It's just taming it. All right. The next thing is now I just want to focus on the low end. So I'm just going to bring a simple stock EQ, and I'm going to high pass at 40 hertz. And we're doing 12 dB per octave. And then here, it's low pass at 120, and I like to do 18 dB. And now this, see, so we're only going to listen to the low end on this, and this is how this sounds like. The reason for that is so then I can control the low end better. Now, obviously the volume went really, really down. So now I'm going to compress it again and bring the volume up. And I'm going to use another Waves plugin, and I'm going to use Renaissance Axe because this one is a good compressor, especially for low end stuff. And I want to do maybe about, now I want to do maybe about 6 dB or so, around 6 dB of compression, and this will bring up the volume as well. So I'm hitting about 6 dB here, and then I adjusted the gain a little bit so it can sound, or the levels can kind of be the same as it was if there was no EQ on it. So for example, if I take the EQ out and I'm going to bypass the compressor, and let's listen to it. We're listening to pretty much volume against the drums. And now I bring this. So see, it's pretty much kind of the same. That's what I'm looking for. And I want to tame the low end on this one. So right now it's pretty much peaked. And if we look over here on this track, look at the meters here, and you can see that it's pretty much peaked, and it's kind of holding it right there. Okay. There's still some dynamics going on, but at least it's holding it pretty well. Okay, so that's it for that. So now I have to duplicate this track, so now I can work on the high end. So let me duplicate, and then I want to keep everything. Okay, because I kind of want to create a copy of it, but I don't need the plugins. So I get rid of the plugins. There's no automation, so I can get rid of it. Alternate playlist. I mean, I'm already mixing, so I don't need to worry about any other tracks that are within that track, so I can get rid of that. There are no sends right now, so I don't need to worry about that. But group assignment, yes, because I did group this. So I leave the group assignment on, and then I click OK. And then I want to label this, and I want to call this, we'll keep it the same name, but just put a 2 next to it, Sam 2. So now we have 2 copies of this. Okay. All right. So next, now we're going to focus on this one, and I'm not going to limit this now. All I'm going to do is just, I want to EQ it. So let's go back to and get an EQ. And here, what we're going to do is, remember that on the other one, I high pass 120, right? And actually, let me bring that up so you can also see it. Okay, so as you can see, at the 120 is where the low pass is. And then here, the high pass is 120. But I want it to kind of cross, like a crossfade. So I'm going to bring this down maybe to 115. Okay, I may fix this maybe 110. But for now, what I should get now is the sound, the overall sound of the bass, as if I didn't do any EQ. So let me take this out, and let's take a listen. See, so it sounds like my original bass tone, but now what I'm doing is the low end, I'm compressing it, and I'm limiting it. You know, that's a tongue twister. So then I'm holding the low end, and now I can focus on the high end a little bit, and I can EQ it and things like that. So far, sounding pretty good. I may want to bring this down a little bit, so I may do some balance here. So let me do this now. Okay. There we go. So I just took it down a few dBs, but that's nice, good balance there. Okay. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I want to compress it a little bit, and I'm going to use just an 1176. I'm going to use a preset bass. Okay. I leave everything as is, and I'm just looking for maybe around 5 dB or so. Okay, so I'm hitting around 5 dB, but now I also, for the output, I want to balance it. I want it to level match it. So for this one, I will have to go to solo on this one. So I'm going to just solo this, bypass it. Let's listen, and then I'm going to try to match it. Okay, that's good. So let me just bring back the drums, bring my bass tracks, and together it sounds like this. So far, so good. All right. Next, now I'm going to EQ it. And then here, what I do is I'm going to add a filter of 4. Okay. And I do this to all my bass because I don't want anything past 4. I don't want any bass information in the upper frequencies. I want to make sure that the vocals live there, the guitars live there. So I just low pass it. And here, normally I would like high pass it, but we already did the EQ curve on it, so I don't need to worry about that. All right, so what do I do here? Well, I focus on 1K, the mid-range, because the bass, a lot of times people take the 1K out. I like to push it because I want the bass to kind of cut through the mix, and that is at 1K. So I'm going to use this one right here. And let's bring it at 1. I just want to push it a little bit at 1K, and you're going to hear the difference. Yeah, I'm not doing much because the bass tone is pretty good. And again, you want to record as if you're mixing, and then you want to mix as if you're mastering. So I try, and with the band, we all try to get it right at the source. So as we're dialing in the bass tones against the drums, we want to make sure that it fits well in the mix already as we're tracking. So I don't do much EQing here during the mix process because it kind of was done already during the recording process, if that makes sense. Okay. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to add another limiter. But again, this is just to kind of tame it. So let me bring my L2. That sounds pretty good. So right there, I already have a very solid bass tone. Obviously, it's not balanced yet with the drums. It's really loud now, but that's okay because right now what I'm doing is I want to make sure that the bass fits with the drums and that the kick is not being buried. And right now, if you listen to it at the balance that it is now, you can hear the kick. The kick is coming through. Let me play and focus on the kick. But we'll fix that later because we want the kick to be a little bit more pronounced and to kind of like punch through a little bit more. But that comes with balancing. All right. Now let's look at this bass distortion here. And now this one, obviously, I'm going to just poke it, not poke it through, but I want to tuck it in. It's not going to be as loud as it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just solo this one, bring it down, and I'm going to slowly raise it until I start to hear some breakup. And then the reason for this, it's not going to really sound like a bass because right now the bass sounds really nice and clean. But with heavy music, you want the bass to cut through because there's so much going on. So when I bring in the guitars later, you'll hear that what this distortion is doing and why I track with distortion as well. And if I was given a mix and there was no distortion, then I would just duplicate what I have and then I would add some distortion. Okay, and let's listen to it by itself, just so you can kind of hear what it's doing. Here it is, just the bass track alone, and then I'm going to add in the distortion. See, so it sounds like it's a lot right there, but when you have it with the drums, it kind of it pokes out a little bit and it fits nicely in the mix. Okay, so now let's edit this. So what I do with this, I pretty much want to kind of duplicate or keep the same, the plugins that I use for this one. So let's start with the EQ. Now I can go ahead and bring an EQ, but I like to just copy what I have here and just bring it over. And I keep it the same. Okay, I want to get rid of all that low end information. Then the same thing with the 1176. Same thing with EQ. Same thing. Here, I'll probably bring it back a little bit because there's already a lot of distortion going on. Oh, I may even just take it out. That sounds good. And now let's add a limiter, and this one I'm just going to limit it a little bit more. I want it to be a little, even though it's distorted, and if you look at the track, the bass amp right here, see, it's already compressed, but I just want to limit it because you see there's some peaks there, so I want to control those peaks. Okay, good. And if you notice over here in the meters that this limiter is really just there's like a ceiling to it. And take a look at the meters right here. So now I'm going to just do a little bit more processing on the actual bus, the bass bus right here, because I'm sending everything to this bus track right here. And then what I do here, just a couple of things. The first thing is I want bass to cut through in small speakers or like headphones. And there's a good plugin called RBass that does that. Okay, and if this one, what it does, it helps with the bass to kind of cut through on smaller speakers. So let's take a listen here. I'm going to bring the intensity down. Okay, that's good. And you can hear the difference, okay? Let's just listen to it. See how it sounds like there's more low end, especially if you're listening to like on headphones. Then I want to add a little bit of saturation. And maybe use iridescent because it's a little warmer and a little darker. It's not doing much, but what it is, it's adding some frequencies around the fundamentals, and it fills it out a little bit more. So I like that. And then finally, just another limiter just to kind of hold a little bit more. And then that's it. That's how I process my bass. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to balance it. And the way I balance bass is I want to bring the guitars in as well. And then I want to bring it in just enough that if I mute the bass or I remove the bass, like the mix just falls apart. But you don't want to make it too loud because then it's going to sound too muddy and there's going to be a lot of low end and it won't sound clear and there won't be like any articulation. So you want to just bring the bass enough that it's there, it's part of the mix, but if it's taken out, the whole mix falls apart. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Let me bring in everything else except the vocals. I may bring in the vocals at the very end. The vocals are not finished yet mixing, but I'll bring it in just so we can kind of hear the whole thing. All right, so now I'm going to bring bass all the way down, and I'm going to slowly bring it up until I start hearing it. It becomes part of the mix, and then I'm going to take it out, and then the mix should just fall apart. So you hear that when I mute it, like it just sounds empty. All right, and now I'm just gonna bring I just did a quick mix on this. I haven't finished yet, but let me just bring in the vocals, and then the bass is done. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave comments below. I answer all comments, good or bad, but I answer them all. So I hope this was helpful, and until next time, happy mixing.